Okay, and let's correct this. So I'm gonna, ideally you just know what's supposed to be done, whatever, but I'll take this opportunity one more time to kind of go over some of the things you look for to determine which law to use. Okay, so in this first one, you try to look for a pair. That's the first thing I try to look for, and I can actually get a pair if I just figure out this angle here. We can call that angle X, right? So angle X, if you do the work, okay, angle X ends up being 71 degrees. All right, and so 71 goes here. You've got your pair now, so you know you have to use sine law. Even if you tried cosine law, it didn't work. Side, 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 not even the case here, right? Side, angle side, you need two sides, not happening either, right? So if you cannot find a pair, then it's most likely going to be cosine law, but in this case, we were able to figure out a pair. So here we go. So sine of 71, by the way, you get a mark for this, for figuring out 71. You don't have to do the math here. If it just shows up, I'm okay with that. So there we go, you set it up. And in this case, you want to use this angle, right? Sine of 61 is going to allow to solve you for side x. So I would give you a mark for that setup. If you used 48, you would be finding this side, which is not the one we want. You would lose a mark there. So that's what this one mark is there for. You cross multiply and divide, right? So 21 times sine of 61 divided by sine of 71. And the side is 1943 centimeters, okay? So that's another mark for your work. So if you set it up wrong, but that's consistent thereafter, you would get this final answer mark, okay? So 3 marks for A. Next, B. It's asking you to solve for angle X, right? So you do have a pair here. Okay, this angle corresponds to that side. So sine of 51 over 9.4 centimeters, and then sine of x will be found if you use 6 centimeters as the side across from it. Okay, so you get a mark for that setup if it's correct. So then sine of x, right, you would find that by multiplying these two expressions divided by 9.4. Okay, if you crunch this, you get 0.496, and that just keeps going on, right? And so the last line would be x is sine inverse of 0.496 and continued. And so your final answer is 29.74 degrees. So you get another mark for that. I'd say if the sine inverse is missing, take off half. Or if you have sine x all the way to the very end, also take off half. That's like a notation error. But the 29.74, if you got that, then we're in pretty good, you're in pretty good shape. Okay. So 3 and 2 so far. Losing my voice here. Next, you've got triangle KLM, and you know 3 sides. So it doesn't matter, it's not drawn to scale, so just draw your triangle. And we gotta go KLM, right? And K is 8, L is 13, M is 20. So obviously this is not drawn to scale. This should have been the longest side if you draw it to scale. We don't care about that right now, we wanna just solve. It says find the largest angle. There's a long way of doing this, there's a short way of doing that. Right? We know this is the longest side, and so this is the angle that we want, right? You just want to solve for M here to make it quick. This is a side, side, side scenario. Yep. Okay, I see. It's K is 8, comma, L is 13. It's okay then, we won't sweat it, so you might be off a little bit. If that's the biggest problem today, I'm happy, I'm smiling, right? But yeah, unless you're in French, we don't really use commas. Maybe, yeah. So anyways, it's okay. Side, 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 that's cosine law, okay? So maybe you have this on your study sheet, maybe you gotta look it up. But if you wanna solve for this angle, that's why I want patterns, not letters. That's like patterns. So really, you're gonna add two sides and one is gonna be subtracted. This is the most important. That's the one that's across the angle you want, so that's gonna be 20 squared like that. And then you grab the other two in any order and you add them up, okay? And then the pattern is that at the bottom it's 2 times 8 times 13. So if you have this, you get a mark already, okay? So that would be a diagram with an original setup. And I ran out of room here, so I'm gonna have to do one of these. I will figure out what the top is. Make sure you enter this properly. I want to show you the shortcut. I don't think I've done this, but some of you already know it. 8 squared, it's better to just go 8 and then x2. That's the fastest way of doing it. If you use the hat button, it's going to be an extra button every time. And it's just too much time that you're spending, right? So 8 squared plus 13 squared minus 20 squared. You used to know these by heart, right, in intro. You would know your perfect squares. So negative 167 is what to get at the top, and the bottom is 2 times 8 times 13. That's 208. By the way, if the bottom isn't bigger than the top, you're in trouble. Like you're gonna get an error at one point, because when you divide these, you have to get a number that starts with a 0. Okay. By the way, if you have a negative up here, we know our final angle is gonna be obtuse or greater than 90. We know that already without even finishing this. So I divide these two, right? Whichever way you're doing that, that's negative 0.802 something, and then angle M is cosine inverse of this. Don't forget about the negative. It's very important. So you go second cosine, copy, paste, enter, 143.41 degrees. What are the marks here? I'm going to give you 1 mark for the original setup, 1 mark for the work in between, okay, today, because it's tricky with the negative and everything, and then 1 mark for the correct final answer. So 1 setup, 1 work, 1 correct final answer. If you drop the negative, if you get an angle less than 90, it's for sure a -1. Right? That's not just a half, that's a concept. So for this page, we are at 8, right? 3, 3, 2. So this will be worth 8. You're the teacher today, you give yourselves marks here. It's really to learn and see where we're at, right? Do I need to do a little bit more work outside? Do I need to ask certain questions? And so forth. Okay. DEF. So I'm just going to draw my triangle. DEF. We've got side D is 49. Side F is 43. And angle E is 102. There's no pair, right, to be had here. This is side angle side, right? No pair, so definitely not sine law. In particular is side angle side. So the two sides sandwich the angle. That's that one, so it's cosine law. So we have to use this one. It says find E lowercase, which is this side right here. So it's E squared. And the formula tells us to take the other two sides and square them, right? Square them, add minus 2 times the first one times the second side, and all of that times cosine of the only angle that is present here in this case, but it's the one across the side we want, right? So these are opposite to each other. So E will be found by taking the root of all of this. So you type this all in one shot. Let me just get that here. You get 5126.139, and that keeps going. So angle side E is 71.597 and something. So that is really, if you round it to 2 decimals, 71.60. kilometers. Okay, so I would say this: 1 mark for setup, 1 mark for the work along the way, and 1 mark for the correct final answer. So if you don't root or anything like that, then it's a -1. If you don't square root. Some of you did question 2. It's just, right now I just want to see where you're at, so I'll just show you what that should look like if you did it, but we end it here, right? So this page is technically worth 3 marks. So what is it, 8 and 3, it's 11, so it's a weird final, but it is what it is. Here's the question 2 if you've done it, so you can quickly just write down or check if you want to, but I'm not giving you marks for this one. So notice that you could have solved for t using sine law or cosine law, right? Like as you start solving for more, you get to choose which way you want. Some students default back to sine law every single time. They just start with cosine law and then they go over to sine law to move forward. That's up to you. I'm never going to force you to use one over the other to solve a triangle. But you're going to have to choose which one do I start with, right? Is it a pair? Do I have a pair? Sine law. Is it SAS or SSS? Cosine law. Okay. All right, I'm going to put this away. If you really want to know more, just come and see me later. But we're going to have a total out of 11 here at the top. And make sure your first name and last name is on there, and then I'll collect them. Thank you.